Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. It sure does feel good to say that positively again and to have this beautiful cyan background behind me rather than the spooky orange. I'm not against the spooky orange, but very clean and bright. Makes the channel feel warm again. So, today we're going to do some special selections. We just got done checking out some Cult of Luna. We're going to get back to this. I know last week we did all spooky stuff. We had no special selections, so Alessandro's request got split up. We checked out Summoning, the song Flamifer, a week and a half ago, almost now. We're going to get to the second half of this request now. We got Countless Skies by Bellacore. And according to this description here, it says Countless Skies is from the melodic death metal band Bellacore. And I have one question. Are they mellow death? There go my comments. Ain't going to be able to read them. Everybody's going to be arguing about mellow death versus melodic death metal again. Alright, let's get into this one. Countless Skies by Bellacore. Seeing right here, this is a 7. This is what I'm talking about earlier. We have a 4 and then a 3. See, in the second half, the end of the phrase feels like it's cut short, rather than doing it in the middle like Cult of Luna did. This is a more of a standard way of writing a 7 melody. Ooh, we had a little tempo shift there. Interesting cymbal sound too. So we actually had an 8th there on the final one, but it was the 8th beat with silence. And this is actually 8, but they're using the 7 idea, and it feels like we're just getting an extra note at the end. Very interesting that it's not a line more closely written for 4. So we could have shifted to a triplet feel, but I count this as 6/8. The mix on this is interesting. It's very treble focused. Yeah, so that was really cool. We took the idea and we changed the environment for it. We also shifted the accent point. Yeah, we were on the downbeat and they shifted to the offbeat on the second half of that. I love their chords that they choose and their melody lines. Very just kind of all over the place, constantly changing feel. We got some nice harmony on that melody line here. I really like the playfulness with the cymbals hitting up on the curved part. Massive tempo shift. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe they just really went for like a halftime feel momentarily. Yeah, very Trans-Siberian Orchestra feel. Bass is really holding down this low end here. Yeah, I'm really digging that sharp groove right there. Another harmony. Yeah, the bass has some really cool lines right here. Really getting drowned out by everything else though. The bass is providing counterpoint and you can't hear it, and I want to cry. You can kind of hear the bass during that fade out, but oh man, that was it's so good too. That's the thing. That's the thing. So, oh man, Bellicor, give your bass a boost, please. All right, let's get into this. Man, I was so good on that song for the first 9 minutes, eight and a half, and then I have a major criticism I'm going to talk about, but when they finally address it, it's not very well played in the mix, which just upsets me more because it's the bass that's getting hidden doing what I want them to do, and it's just I don't want that to reflect too harshly on what I'm about to say with them, but you know what they say about the what is it they say? I don't even know what they say. It's that final taste in my mouth. The last thing I remember from this band is mild disappointment, and I'm trying not to let that color my entire experience with this because I did enjoy this. I really did. If this is what melodic death metal is, I could get into this, especially if I could find some melodic death metal that had a different vocal style. And I know this is a very death metal vocal style. You got them death growls, but I really like a lot of the music that's going on here. I think they have a strong foundation there. So this band is uh the Between the Buried and Me of death metal. Although the music isn't very death metally, at least not to me. Maybe my idea of heavy is shifting. This doesn't seem too heavy to me. This is it's kind of radio rock, I'd say, both in tone and writing. It's very weighted towards the high end. There is some bassy punch to it, but it's not really that present. And it could just be that it says this is taken off their 2009 album. I was gonna say maybe this is just due to a different era of production, but this is a modern song, modern song. Sorry, but it does remind me of 80s and 90s metal where it's still it hadn't gone into that everything has to be low and dirty and gritty kind of stuff that we hear a lot of in modern metal, um, and even modern. Yeah, we're just gonna say modern metal. Almost every subgenre has kind of honed in on that lower range, the bass frequencies, to make their songs bigger and heavier and whatever. And this seems to be more of a look at some more treble heavy stuff that reminds me of sort of radio rock and metal from the 80s and 90s, where the production really wasn't there yet. I think that maybe the direction was slowly going in that manner, but we hadn't really reached that point where songs were just bassy and heavy all the time. 7 and 8 string guitars going for those super low strings. Um, it feels bright and happy in a lot of places. The only thing that really makes it death metal to me is the vocals. Um, so yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I can call them the Between the Buried and Me of death metal, but they do have that idea of not really being able to stick with an idea for very long and just constantly having to move to something new. And it's fun in the same way that it's fun for bands like that or Car Bomb, any of these bands that are just hyperactive in their transitions, or I should say transition frequencies. Um, there's definitely a novelty in saying, what are they going to do next, especially if it's unexpected. I expect that if we check out another Car Bomb song or if we look at another Between the Buried, I'm going to expect a lot of stuff. That's their style of music. This was unexpected. It started out as kind of generic-y kind of stuff. I kind of thought I knew where we were going, and they constantly swept the rug out from under me, and said, "Yeah, we're not doing that. We're doing this. Oh, we're not doing that. We're doing this." And it's not what I was expecting. So it was fun in that manner. But I do feel like there were a lot of moments that I don't think were cohesive. The song feels much like the other bands that I've experienced so far. It feels like a bunch of disjointed ideas smashed together with similar DNA. They all have sort of the same chord progression to them, the same sound, the same tone. They all fit together atmospherically. But I don't feel like on a structural level any of the melodies blend into each other. I don't feel like the song tells a story. It doesn't take me from one place to another. It's like being teleported between different sets. Um, it uh, it does not feel like a cohesive idea in that manner. So, with that said, I did enjoy this on a fun level, but not necessarily I don't want to say artistic one, on a critical one. Um, and a part of that also might come from some patterns I was slowly picking up. Every section had sort of the same thing going on. We had a center guitar doing chordal stuff. We had a bass working within them, usually being a bit muted because they were mostly playing root stuff under this guitar. Or also, it could just be the poor mixing. I really didn't pick up much bass until they're at the end. There was one section where the bass was coming through and it was doing root work with the guitar chords, and then the final section where it was providing counterpoint to the main melody. Um, Everywhere else, I found it difficult to listen to, and it could be that it was being hidden by the guitar. It could just be that it was doing its own thing, but just not very prominently in the mix. But we have that center, we have the drum center, we have the vocal center, and then we have two other guitars that are slightly panned to either side, with the left guitar being the lead guitar. They always have a melody line, or usually have a melody line going on, and the right guitar is usually helping provide the sound floor. It's not usually chordal work, but I wouldn't say that it's strong enough to be labeled a melody, to be called a lead line or a counterpoint. It's usually something that is along the lines of playing chords, laying down, like I said, the foundation of the song. And that is a structure for every single section of the song. And I was really hoping they would change it up. And they really didn't. When the right guitar ended up taking a lead part, it was a harmony. It was the same thing the left guitar was doing, but different notes. And I was really, really hoping. And the thing is, also there was occasionally a piano. When the piano came in, the left guitar stopped doing lead stuff. There was one lead instrument, foundational instruments, your vocalist and your drums, and that's the entire song from start to finish. Now, I will agree that's a bit reductive. I don't want anyone to walk away from this saying, he boiled this down to its most basic parts. We could do that to any song and call it boring. Yes, 100%. I am being reductive there. And I do want to explain this and dive into a little bit more. But once I saw this pattern, I had a difficult time enjoying each of the individual aspects because they stopped feeling individual. Each section felt unique in its feel, which a lot of that comes from the rhythmic ideas, but the structures were very similar. And it's just, I feel like there's a lot of lost potential here, with one of my biggest criticisms being counterpoint. Counterpoint. There's so many good melodies here, and I feel like having a chord based guitar and a foundational bass guitar, both kind of doing the same thing in the same range, is missing out on an opportunity to create playful melodic stuff based off of the strong lead guitar melody lines, because their melody lines are so good. I really love the vibe of this song, being that it is treble based and it is a bit brighter and more up. I don't want to say upbeat. It's a brighter song, given the death metal idea, given the vocals. Any other band, I think if they were given these vocals, it would be a lot heavier of a song. And it's just brighter. It's lighter. It is a fun take on this style of music. And right off the bat, we had the piano line come in, and I knew we were in for something different. The piano writing was gorgeous. And then the guitar comes in, and we get another gorgeous melody line. I'm like, yes, I love this. We're going to get some heaviness out of these vocals. We got some of the beauty in these melody lines. This is going to be an amazing song. And I mean, it was a good song. I'm not trying to downplay that. I enjoyed my time listening to it from start to finish. But there's so many opportunities to provide a second melody and create some counterpoint and create some diversity in these sections through the rhythmic writing that was missed, in my opinion. And maybe this was intentional. Maybe Bellacore wants it to be a little on the simpler side. Maybe their fans really enjoy what they're doing here. Maybe adding more melody and counterpoint would create too much complexity for the band or the listeners, whatever. It's not my music, right? Uh, I'm not in a band, so it's not my music to create. And as of right now, I'm not one of their fans. I think this is the first song I've heard from them. Um, so I'm not making the music. I'm not the audience of the music. I understand everything I say should be taken with a grain of salt. Um, but if I were making this, the first thing I would do, or if I were to remix this, I suppose would be a better way of saying that, or cover it, the first thing I would do is to add another melody line in almost every section and give each area playfulness and identity based on how the two melody lines work within or against each other to create contrasting textures and melodic passages. They kind of touched on this idea with the harmonies. It wasn't something they did every time. I think there were only two sections with harmony to them. We had the outro section and one part in the middle somewhere. Maybe there was a third, I don't quite remember. But it contrasts the idea of foundational guitar versus lead guitar. We had two lead guitars, and that created a bit of an identity shift for those sections, and they stood out to me. I recognized them as an unusual compositional decision within the entirety of this song. But I do wish that they had taken this idea of two lead guitars and pushed it outside of melody. Some sections could be foundational and lead, some could be harmonized, some could be counterpoint. Just really change it up from section to section, because so much of the song utilizes a very similar soundscape. And I think that would be one way to help differentiate each of these different sections without pulling a Between the Buried and Me and shift genres every section. I think that it is more difficult to stay within a genre and still do this channel surfing idea, because each section is going to feel more similar by nature, because you're not changing your guitar tone, you're not changing the style of music. So they're immediately going to feel a little bit more similar throughout. I do want to bring up how varied their feels are, though, between gallops and 6/8 kind of waltzy thing going on, and the 4/4 and the 7/4, and the double bass pedal sections. Each one rhythmically felt unique. They have a wide repertoire of these time feels that they can inject into their music, and that is easily the most identifiable part of each section. In a sense, you could say that they are moving through subgenres just based on the drum work itself. And I think there's an argument for that for sure. But it also means that since they're, again, moving only through subgenres and not full genres, a lot of the stuff can sound very similar tonal wise and sound sphere wise, and textural and atmospheric. And I think that's sort of my big takeaway here is I think they did a good job at doing what they set out to do, which is to jump across all of these ideas and still create a song that doesn't feel disjointed atmospherically, which is something that I've talked about before with some of the bands I've mentioned already, is that it feels like a flurry of random ideas, where at least here the ideas are disjointed, but they don't seem so random. There's a lot of stuff that ties them together, like I mentioned, texture and tone and atmosphere and stuff like that. But it does feel to me like there's a little bit too much homogeny going on with the different sections writing. And in that sense, at least to me, there's a little bit of lost opportunity to create unique ideas between them. And I don't think it's a skill thing at all. I mentioned that their melodic writing is gorgeous. I think they do a fantastic job at creating atmosphere, creating texture, and writing these beautiful melodies, whether it's guitar or piano. They do a great job of it. And they have the capacity to write counterpoint. I still think that bass line at the end was a really nice way to work in a new idea against what the two guitars were harmonizing. And maybe they have a ton of counterpoint in here that I just didn't hear because the bass is, well, the song is already treble based, treble weighted, but the bass guitar just does not have any punch to cut through it. And I don't think the song needs more lower end. I think that the mixing is fine. I think the bass guitar just needs a little more presence. However, the engineer would go about doing that. Maybe it does mean adding a bit more punch to the bassiness and introducing some more low end power to the entire mix. Maybe it is just something about spotlighting. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't remember if it was this video or the last video. I'm not an audio guy. I think it was the last video. I'm not an audio guy. I'm a music guy. Uh, Engineering is something I'm just now getting into, and I'm terrible at it. But so I don't necessarily have the vocabulary or knowledge or expertise to say how the bass should cut through more. But I do think a little bit more bass presence, especially if the bass is pulling down some counterpoint against the guitar work, would really make this shine. If it's not, though, still bring the bass out because more bass, right? Bass guitar should not be forgotten. But more counterpoint. I think just more variety in the dual guitar idea overall. It doesn't necessarily need to be counterpoint all the time. Like I said, mix it up. I think they did a great job of mixing up when we had the shift in divisions or when the two did harmonized melody lines. Just incorporate one more tool in there and sometimes do some counterpoint. I think that touches on everything. The oddity between the mix and sound of the band against the vocals, my criticism with the counterpoint, the strong melody writing, the strong rhythmic element. God, that drummer, man. I mean, it's not just the drummer, of course. The rest of the band had to create riffs that worked well with these different subgenre drum tropes. But yeah, just the drummer being able to shift through all these ideas on a dime, phenomenal. Time signatures, tempo change, shifting to gallops and straight eights, just all of it is just, it was a phenomenal little display of what the drummer is capable of while still retaining that hard rock metal vibe. It's very cool, very cool. Um, yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to touch on. Just really strong musicianship, really strong composition in several aspects, and again, maybe it's just this song. Maybe they typically do a lot of counterpoint and multiple melody writing, and this is just one song that focuses more on their ability to shift between ideas rather than focusing on strong, cohesive melody writing across an entire song. I've only heard one song from them. I'm not trying to make any of these criticisms about the band. It's about this specific song. Those are my thoughts, though, on Bellacore's Countless Skies. This is where you guys come in, though. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are, if you enjoyed this or not. Anything that I might have missed, any sort of context you want to give me. Or if you have a counter argument of why this song is actually amazing, hit me up with that. I'm always open for conversation. As usual, I'm just providing my point of view on a single listen of a band I have no experience with. So there's definitely going to be things I hear that most people don't. And they're like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad I know that now. But I also don't want my word to be taken as definitive information or anything. I am missing context to everything I listen to. Above the comment section is a description box, and there's a link for Linktree. It'll take you to a menu with everything related to the channel: Discord, Patreon, Twitter, my email, my last FM, all sorts of stuff. It's all in there. If you ever wanted to see what I have to offer outside of this channel or related to the channel, that is the place to go. Above that, like, subscribe, ring the bell. That is the last one for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We'll be looking at another anniversary retrospective, checking out a song that I've listened to in the past and either didn't understand, wasn't ready for, or was a bit harsh on for any other reason. We'll be looking at that and a special selection as well. As usual, until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.